This is VOA Africa.
Good evening, I'm Esther Giduyuat. It's Thursday, October 17th. This is Africa 54. Zimbabwe cancels a funding deal for its struggling railways. Thousands face eviction as Kenya's bid to save the Mau forest intensifies. And the second-hand clothes trade provides little comfort to Ugandan designers. Zimbabwe says it's cancelling a $400 million railway investment deal with South Africa's port and rail company. Harare had struck the deal with Transnet and its partner made up of Zimbabwean investors living abroad. The partnership was meant to recapitalize Zimbabwe's state-owned rail company. David Pollard has the details.
Zimbabwe's plan to turn around its dilapidated rail network is facing delays. On Thursday, the government announced that it's cancelling a deal to recapitalize the financially struggling state-owned National Railways of Zimbabwe, or NRZ, to the tune of $400 million. That deal was with South African logistics group Transnet and its partner DIDG, a consortium of Zimbabwean investors living abroad. But a government official said several deadlines to provide proof of funding had been missed, and the differences had emerged between consortium partners, leading DIDG to present a funding structure that excluded Transnet. Once the preferred mode of transport for Zimbabweans, the southern African country's rail network has mirrored its economic decline. The deal was expected to revive NRZ, providing funding for improvements like acquiring and refurbishing wagons and upgrading signalling systems. DIDG said it had not been informed of the government's decision. Transnet was not immediately available for comment.
That was David Pollard of Reuters reporting. Tens of thousands of people face evictions in Kenya's government stepped up its efforts to reclaim the Mau, East Africa's largest indigenous mountain forest. It's also an important source of water in the region. According to authorities, the evictions are part of a plan to save the Mau ecosystem, which they say is being threatened by increased deforestation and human settlements. Ral Ombo reports from the town of Narok.
Josephat Langat rummages through the remains of what was once his business in Sierra Leone, a town in Kenya's Mau forest. He says a truckload of police arrived one early morning and forced residents to tear down their homes and businesses. He says the land they occupied was legally bought.
We bought. Most of us, we came from Kericho, Nakuru, all over the country. Reaching here, we have been cultivating up to 205. They came here, they told us, this land, you are living here illegally. Then we wondered, how can you say we are living illegally, yet we have documents?
Kenya began evicting people from the forest last year to protect its fragile ecosystem. In August, the government announced plans to evict another 60,000 people from the forest. Rights group like Human Rights Watch says authorities should provide residents with adequate notice and compensation and ensure that police officials do not use unlawful force in removing settlements.
We actually hold the view that conservation is very important and the environment needs to be conserved. However, we are saying that government can still do conservation legally and in a manner that respects human rights.
In a recent report, Rights Group documented 9 deaths that took place during the July 2018 eviction process. The block where the current evictions are taking place is Maasai Mau, managed by the county government of Narok and the government-run Kenya Forest Service. Appearing before a parliamentary committee probing the evictions, Kenya's Cabinet Secretary for Environment defended the government's move to protect the forests.
Even if, for argument's sake, Maasai Mau were not still a trust land under the county government of Narok, if there are processes and activities that destroy the environment, the ecological value of that asset, the national government has the responsibility to come in to eliminate processes and activities that are likely to endanger the environment.
Encroachments into the forests are affecting livelihoods further away. Rainfall patterns have become unpredictable, and the Mara River, whose source is in the Mau, has become polluted and receded significantly, says environmental lawyer Kitipa Naikumi.
In the process of keeping the people in the Mau, we are probably wiping our whole generation downstream in the Maasai, within the Mara ecosystem. And so, well, the balancing of right, the right to a humane process of living the Mau, and the right for the people who live downstream.
As for Josephat Langat and other evictees, they say they hope they will get justice from a government they say betrayed them. Raya Lumbur for VOA News, Narok, Kenya.
Howard University in Washington, D.C. is raising awareness about a worrying trend in Africa, extremism. During an event in the U.S. Capitol, experts focused on the role of the youth in countering violent extremism on the African continent and why a growing number of young people are joining groups such as Al-Shabaab and Boko Haram. For more, I'm joined in the studio by Raka Hussein. He is a reporter with VOA's Extremism Watch Desk. He was at the Howard University event. Raka, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
Well, the panelists talked about Boko Haram and Al-Shabaab. Did they explain why the youth of Africa especially are lured into such groups?
So we have to understand the issue of youth joining extremism is very important in the Middle East and in Africa particularly, because youth are very important in any nation. We understand that they're the pillar of growth in any country. We should understand that most youth are peaceful. They do their daily stuff. You know, they go to school, they want to build a family, but the research also shows us that majority of fighters within extremist groups such as Boko Haram and Al-Shabaab are actually young. I would direct you to some research that was discussed in the event. In the context of East Africa with Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda linked group, 86% of militants who joined the group are actually between the age of 15 to 25. So that's very young.
And also, Raka, when you look at the figures you're just talking about, we've also seen an increasing number of very young women being recruited into these extremist groups. Did the panelists say why women? And they actually just leave their families and join these groups and act very violently.
So yeah, they did actually mention that, and it's a very good point you're making here. What we have seen so far is extremist groups are becoming really smart in exploiting people's vulnerabilities. They understand young people, they understand what are the problems. And, to address your question, why there are women among their ranks, these extremist groups are trying to provide, their narrative is, we can provide you equality. For example, you don't have to sit home to be considered less of a man. You could actually join us and, commit suicide. You could become a suicide bomber just like men.
Hopefully they can say one summary of how we can counter that kind of thing, but it looks like we are actually running out of time. So thank you so much, Raka, for joining us on Africa 54. Raka Hussein is a journalist with VOA's Extremism Watch Desk. Washington is mourning and condolences are pouring in following the death of U.S. Congressman and civil rights icon Elijah Cummings. He died on Thursday at the age of 68. In a statement, Cummings' office said he died due to complications from long-time health challenges. He is a long-time native of Baltimore, Maryland. Cummings served as the chair of the powerful House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. He was a key figure in the ongoing impeachment probe into President Donald Trump. Congressional Democrats and Republicans have taken to social media to remember Cummings' life of service and his work on Capitol Hill. Moving on to South Africa, where that country's former President Jacob Zuma remains mired in legal woes. A high court has ruled that this fraud and corruption trial will go ahead, but postponed until February next year. Now Zuma says he will appeal that court ruling to deny him a permanent stay of prosecution. Francesca Lena reports.
Jacob Zuma's long-awaited corruption trial was due to start on Tuesday. Instead, it has been delayed after the former South African president's lawyers said he was appealing a High Court decision last week. Zuma had applied for a permanent stay of prosecution for alleged fraud, racketeering and money laundering relating to a $2 billion arms deal. But on Friday, the Pietermaritzburg High Court dismissed the application by Zuma and his co-accused French arms company Thales.
It's dismissed.
On Tuesday, his lawyers said Zuma would exercise the full extent of his constitutional rights, including the right to appeal. Judge Charmaine Bolton agreed to push the trial back until 2020.
There is an agreement that the matter be adjourned as a holding date to the 4th of February next year.
Zuma faces 18 charges relating to a deal to buy European military hardware for South Africa's armed forces in the 1990s. His lawyers argue that the 77-year-old is the victim of a politically motivated conspiracy. Outside the court on Tuesday, Zuma climbed onto a stage to tell a crowd of supporters that he is used to this kind of treatment, and that as a black person in South Africa, you will be, quote, attacked and mistreated all the way to the grave.
That was Reuters reporter Francesca Lena. An annual hip-hop festival in Ghana is celebrating the West African country's take on the American culture and art movement. Performers use their music and art to represent culture and life in Ghana, infusing local languages, fashion and sounds into hip-hop style. Stacey Nutt reports from Accra.
Hip-hop has its roots in the United States, but it is also a global movement, including here in Ghana. Through breakdancing, rapping, disc jockey sets and graffiti art, fans and artists alike show the widespread influence of hip-hop and how it's been reimagined in Ghana. Salam Atikpo is creative director of Yo-Yo Tins, a platform dedicated to promoting hip-hop in Africa and co-founder of Ghana's annual hip-hop festival.
There's been a lot of transformation, a lot of fusions, some people say Afro hip-hop, some people say Afro trap, so we still get influences from the States, but also there's that side that's try to incorporate what we have here, the culture, into the hip-hop, and so it has different forms.
Atikpo says hip-hop in Ghana has grown from its early days of cassettes imported from the US to artists today rapping in local dialects to tell their own stories. Ghana's hip-hop festival this year focused on dance. Cameroonian dancer Ornello Chango points to how sounds, fashion and dance from across Africa have also influenced American artists.
It takes just knowing the two cultures and knowing that, okay, this is where the African culture is and this is where the whole American one. So the fusion happens not only on our part, but also there, because I believe it has been sensed that both cultures are rich and brought together massive even.
Artist Kingsley Kofi Defour says hip-hop still has a lot of room to grow in Ghana, especially in the graffiti art scene. He remembers asking a local art store to import the first spray paint cans into Ghana for the street art.
It is not too much in town, but people are getting to know the culture, so probably by next year it's going to be too much graffitis in town.
Organisers say future festivals will focus on different elements of hip-hop to both celebrate those in the scene and to encourage others to experience the rich, homegrown hip-hop culture that Ghana has to offer. Stacey Nutt for VOA News, Accra.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, we'll introduce you to the South African sisters shining in a traditionally male business. We'll be back.
I am Shaka Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
The lyrics could be French,
English,
Portuguese,
Bantu,
Arabic.
It is the beat.
The African beat that counts.
The beat does all the translations.
It cuts across all languages and gives us the understanding that this is the African beat.
It is so distinct
and adhesive.
It binds us together.
African beat on the Voice of America. For more information, visit our website at www.voanews.com/AfricanBeat.
I'm Clara Frank, and here's what's trending. A motorcyclist and Ebola survivor is helping doctors overcome the local suspicions and fear which block their efforts to quarantine and treat patients with the deadly virus in Congo. Health workers here have found sending a local person like Germaine Kalubenge on a motorbike helps allay the fears of local people who feel less intimidated. Community resistance and insecurity have been the major challenges standing in the way of stemming the impact of Ebola. The virus has killed more than 2,000 people since the latest outbreak began in the Democratic Republic of Congo in August last year. Next up, what makes the Getaway Bar in the trendy Brooklyn neighborhood of Greenpoint unusual? It's a dry bar, seeking to cater to the growing sober movement that includes sober bars as well as new apps like Lucid that bring together users for dating and other activities where drinking is not included. Binge drinking, which means 5 or more drinks in a row over a 2-week span, continues to decline among both college and non-college adults, dipping below 30%. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, total alcohol consumption in the United States has declined for 3 consecutive years, largely as a result of continued weakening beer volume. And finally, Google has unveiled new Pixel smartphones with higher quality cameras, a radar sensor, and a faster virtual assistant. Google also announced its first moderately priced laptop, first wireless earbuds, and upgrades to its well-reviewed Wi-Fi router and burger-sized smart speaker. A new feature based on radar technology enables users to skip songs or issue other commands by waving their hands above the screen. The phones include a telephoto lens for long-distance photography and improved software to take photos of the night sky. And that's what's trending today.
The impeachment inquiry into U.S. President Donald Trump is intensifying. Former Trump administration officials have been testifying behind closed doors on Capitol Hill throughout this week. Democrats continue to build their case that Trump invited foreign interference into the 2020 election. VOA's congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson has the story from Capitol Hill.
Busy week of interviews for House Democrats building a case for articles of impeachment.
Oh, I don't think we're there at all yet. We have a lot more things to go on and to do, and we're doing it.
The original whistleblower complaint alleging the president withheld aid to Ukraine in return for help against rival Joe Biden and his son, giving House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff a guide to request court orders for additional information. Orders the Trump administration has so far refused.
The case for obstruction of Congress continues to build.
Trump arguing he won't cooperate until House Democrats hold a floor vote to make the inquiry official. That's a game to undermine Congress, said House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
We're not here to call bluffs. We're here to find the truth, to uphold the Constitution of the United States.
But the president said Pelosi and Democrats were playing politics.
This one is just absolutely crazy. All you have to do is read the transcript of the call. Read the transcript. This is a open and shut, simple case. They're desperate. because they know they're going to lose the election.
Schiff, also a focus of Republicans' frustration, facing a formal vote of disapproval introduced by Trump's congressional ally.
There's nothing that the president did wrong. There's nothing that the president did within that call that's impeachable. And you know what? If the speaker would have waited 48 hours to have the transcript, we wouldn't putting America through this.
Democrats face pressure to hold an impeachment vote by year's end, avoiding the official start of the 2020 presidential election in February. Still, some said time shouldn't be a concern.
It's important to take note that we're not rushing so that we give any impression that we're happy at doing this, that this is a celebration, that all we want to do is to move the president in or out.
Democrats' next step, learning more about the text exchanges between Trump officials, including former European Union Ambassador Gordon Sondland, set to testify Thursday. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Capitol Hill.
Well, Gordon Sondland is appearing before lawmakers in the House of Representatives as we speak. Sondland was expected to say Trump would only offer a White House visit to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky if he would investigate former Vice President Joe Biden. Sondland's appearance comes after the U.S. State Department blocked him from appearing last week. He is one of several diplomats who advised the Ukrainian leadership about how to carry out Trump's demands after Trump's July phone call with Zelensky. Uganda is trying to breathe new life into its local textile and fashion industry, but its efforts are being hampered by a thriving second-hand clothes business. Serena Chondri has more.
Every Sunday at an intersection in Kampala, traders converge to sell their wares. Discarded as worthless by charity shops or thrift stores in the West, the second-hand clothes are popular among Ugandans. They're also an important source of livelihood for low-income earners. Rose Natabi has been selling used clothes for over 5 years.
The clothes sold in shops here don't last long. The fabric is washed only once and after that it tears. These used clothes are durable. They've already been used, but they're better than those made here in Uganda. Clothes made here have poor quality. They're washed once and then they get torn. People love used clothes. Clothes made here are not good. A child wears it for 2 months and that's it.
It's not just Uganda. Second-hand clothes trade is common across the continent, with Ghana, Tanzania, Benin and Kenya among some of the bigger markets. But while it may provide a practical solution to unemployment, critics argue the used clothes trade is preventing Africa from building its own industry. Fashion designer Victoria Marabakini wants the trade to be banned.
It would help out in one way or the other, because at times there are things that are imported into the country, yet there are things we can do as designers, as people in the country.
It's not so easy. In 2016, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda and Uganda all increased duties on used clothing and shoes. But in 2017, a trade group representing U.S. used clothing exporters filed a petition against it. Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda backed down and agreed to roll back the duty increases. Rwanda, which refused, has had its right to export clothing duty-free to the U.S. suspended.
Serena Chondri of Reuters with that report. Now, Mosi Budi Jomatole and Khomoto Sora Modipa are rare gems in the male-dominated diamond industry. The South African sisters run one of the few women-owned diamond polishing businesses in the world. And despite the slumping global market for diamonds and a shrinking industry in South Africa, they've managed to keep shining and develop new female talent. Marisa de Klerk reports from Bedfordview, South Africa.
A passion for diamonds drove South African sisters Mosibudi Jo Matoli and Khomotso Ramodiba to drop their careers as an investment banker and an optometrist. After qualifying as diamond valuators, in 2008, they started a cutting and polishing shop, the first and only one run by sisters in South Africa.
Barriers to entry go beyond just being a woman or being a man, because the difficulty it boils down to having an outfit like this, you really need a proper capital outlay. And for women, it becomes a bit tricky because this has always been a very male-dominated industry.
But seeing challenges as opportunities, the sisters cut their way into the diamond industry, selling only responsibly sourced certified stones bought from mining companies operating in South Africa. Kwame Diamonds carved out a niche in cutting and polishing fancy and bespoke cut diamonds.
To produce a forever marked diamond, which according to them, it's 1% of the world diamonds that are produced. If you are able to polish that kind of diamond, then you are among one of the best. So we can proudly say that we are among the best.
Matoli and Ramudipa employ and empower women in the diamond industry by developing their skills.
Now I can go out there and say, I'm a diamond cutter. I'm even specializing with fancy cut. It's something that it's so wow, because other people, they don't know it.
Globally, polished diamonds' profit margins are declining. The South African industry shrank from 4,500 polishers 25 years ago to only 250 polishers today. But the sister-run Kwame Diamonds has managed to not only stay in the market, but gain a reputation for innovation.
They're looking at the diamond industry from a different perspective. They're thinking out of the box, and maybe they're ticking all the right boxes that is giving them the success that they have. And maybe that's what a lot of the older diamond industry can learn from.
South Africa's diamond industry fears a lack of growth will not provide enough jobs for trained diamond talent. Matoli disagrees.
How you approach the business is what will set you apart. So yes, it is shrinking, but we are here not to shrink. We are here to make sure that we expand.
These dynamic sisters are determined to prove not that diamonds are a girl's best friend, but rather an industry where women can shine. Marise de Klerk for VOA News, Bedfordview, South Africa.
Way to go, South African sisters. Proud of you. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a good evening.